So, hi everybody, this is our first webinar and hopefully we'll keep improving as we go ahead. Today's discussion is following from something which appeared in Times of India on 28th of June, and we will come to that. So, parking on our streets is incredibly important issue. It's an urban issue, it's an urban planning issue, it's everything issue. I mean, for us at Walking Project, it's a very serious issue. And we just started with an image showing how parking is extremely regulated and in almost all international cities of global repute. And you don't see the kind of chaos that you see in Mumbai or in Indian cities. This is a image from London we started with. But this is a representative street and this is Horniman Circle, where we are seeing angular parking, we are seeing double parking, we are seeing triple parking. Thankfully, there's a nice footpath in the arcade, which we see on the right hand side, but the footpath on the left hand side is completely obliterated and used for angular parking. So these are common scenes that we are seeing. This is right outside the BMC office itself. The whole perimeter is facing a problem with parking. Any of our streets that you see are overwhelmed with parking. And as per the RTO records, almost cars are growing at the rate of 900 cars being registered per day. And this is a challenge which we just cannot afford to ignore at all. I mean, there's been a lot of deliberation on it, but unfortunately, we are not progressing. This is something which was shared with us by Dr. Kaustubh Sawant. He shared the absolute chaos on the road where he lives in Andheri. And this can be a typical scene in a lot of roads across the city. There is, as we can see, no footpaths. All the pedestrians are walking on the carriageway. And what should have been with the footpaths has gone over to the angular parking for cars and taxis. Uh, and this is the scene everywhere that cars have completely overwhelmed, choked our streets. This is a view from Kalagoda, just as you're entering the Kalagoda Arts District. And since last year, this has been under a lot of conversation because BMC decided to make this car-free area. And as part of that, the beautification and cobblestone work has happened in the initial stretch. But parking inside is still unregulated and that has not been touched. So, this is the article which really prompted the discussion. And it is important to clarify right in the beginning that what we are holding through this webinar is not a masterclass in parking management. That would be a very, very heavy, very huge conversation. What we are focusing on is this article. And if you look at the rectangles marked in red, is what we are talking about. And Minister urges changes in regulations for MMR parking plan. Uh, so basically, the minister called
It's on
for
the next
a
slide.
meeting. Was that?
It's on the next slide.
But I'm just kind of talking of the broader thing of the article. So there was a meeting of UDD officials and also the municipal commissioners of all the 9 municipal corporations in MMR region. And apparently there is a new 14-point guidelines draft which has been sent to all the regions. And this seems to be kind of a recurring theme, which we will discuss in the subsequent slides. But the minister has suggested things like keeping the parking fees, street parking very low. And he's also
It
suggested,
is in the presentation and
yeah. So,
go in the sequence of slides.
yes. So, the important thing to understand, some very few basics about parking is that every vehicle requires at least 3 parking spots. I mean, if you are discussing cars, Then one parking spot is required at the residence, one at place of work, and one could be any third space which you visit, a mall or any other place of recreation or a utility. And the typical parking sizes for vehicles are very standardized. In the Indian context, these are the provisions that we are looking at, which is 135 to almost 200 square feet and 3 to 4 square meters for a two-wheeler. And we have been doing all those kind of calculations that the which are separately we keep doing in walking project, that if you were to keep providing parking space for 900 cars every day which are being registered, then you're talking in terms of providing 1 acre of space for parking, which has to be created either horizontally or vertically. So this is a problem which you cannot solve at all. You cannot keep creating parking for newer and newer vehicles. Now, coming to the statements which were made in that article, which are a real big worry for us, and which is why we think that everybody in the city should speak about this, is that he's asked the UDD to make necessary changes in regulations, and this is being done with the objective to organize road traffic and avoid unnecessary congestion. And so it is important to introduce an integrated parking system in the metropolis. Now, this is where we are saying that, I mean, and these are also the statements by the minister that parking fees should be kept very low. This is, we are taking a representative image anywhere in Europe or America where parking is strictly regulated. There would be parking meters and there are market rates. I mean, just yesterday we were sitting in the office and discussing with Ant, highlighted the whole point about Chicago, where the parking rates have gone up from 25 cents to $1 to maybe even more right now, and it keeps fluctuating as per demand and supply. And that is for an hour, $1 or $2 an hour, not for the whole day. So this is the minister's statements are quite regressive. The other statement that is being made over there is that considering shortage of space in metropolitan areas, underground parking facilities should be developed beneath parks and gardens. The Thane Municipal Corporation has implemented such a project which serves as a model, and other municipalities should follow suit. This is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, that last line, that other municipalities should follow suit. I mean, this, we're just taking a representative image of a garden in Andheri West. This garden has been in danger from a proposal to make an underground hawking plaza, which I personally, in my personal capacity, objected to since 2 years. Thankfully, nothing has happened till now. But imagine now the same place being dug up for developing an underground parking lot. All the trees and shrubs which have taken root over a period of 2, 3 decades, everything has to be uprooted, the whole ground hollowed out. And this we are talking potentially, if you were to read the quote ad verbatim, that every single garden or playground is vulnerable, considering the growth in cars per day. Now, that's what we said. This is not a master class. If you go onto the internet, you will realize that it is full of case studies and policy papers which are seriously concerned about parking management in our cities. This is a problem which industrialized West has faced since 1940s. And by 1970s and 80s, they realized what a massive problem unregulated growth in cars and parking was. And this is just a snippet and a snapshot from a World Bank document which you've shown over here. But you can see a lot. Now, this is really, in a sense, one of the key takeaways from this discussion, that the minister's comments in 2025, June 2025, are really a kind of a takedown of everything that has happened in the city in the past 20 years. The city has seen enormous discussion on the issue of parking, on sustainable urban mobility for the whole decade of 2000 to 2010, going up till 2015, 20. Uh, and it's kind of reduced in the past few years because everybody feels a bit beaten down with the way coastal road and the whole city has been made car centric. But just to highlight this, in 2010, you look at the image on the left, the Bombay Bar Association filed a writ petition in the Bombay High Court, making state of Maharashtra and others as respondents, ask, holding them responsible for not doing enough to tackle traffic congestion in Mumbai. This is 2010. This is the Bombay Bar Association. Bombay Bar Association is the association of all advocates and lawyers and people in the legal fraternity associated with the Bombay High Court. And in response to that, the Bombay High Court has taken no cognizance of their petition and formed a high powered committee to look into this issue. And that committee has submitted this report on traffic management, which I have uploaded on my script and on 10th of August 2014. And I was immediately reminded of that report. If you look at that report, it has covered almost everything which is being spoken about in that article, in which the minister seeks to address, which is traffic congestion, parking, etc. This is available on the internet. You can go and read. It's a 51-page report, but just this index is being shown to show everything that is covered in the state of the problem and action plan proposed by the HPC. Now, what is important is to see the composition of the HPC. Now, when you go back to the article, you realize it's the Urban Development Department and the nine municipal commissioners. If you see over here, Mr. Asim Gupta's name comes up over there at number six. Mr. Asim Gupta is then the additional commissioner MCGM, but now he is the Secretary Urban Development Department. Mrs. Bhide, everybody over there is competent IS officers and IPS officer, Mr. Vivek Fansalkar, and there are two civil society members, three, Mr. Nitin Dusa, Mr. Ashok Datar, and Mr. Madhav Pai. Now, the whole question to ask really is that what is the real value of Bombay High Court judgments on the working of politicians? I mean, is it only advocacy groups like ours, advocacy groups, activists who are supposed to keep track of these judgments? Or it's the job of the IS officers, the secretaries to keep building on historic context and not starting a discussion in 2025 as if it's absolutely fresh. Now, what? So this is extremely critical that this has been discussed ad nauseum that you cannot keep low parking fees and that you cannot keep supplying new parking uh, s- based on demand. Demand is coming from the 900 new cars which are being registered, and supply is being seen as rip apart every open space, every garden, create vertical parking, and uh, this cannot be whims and fancies of every new transport minister who comes in. Now, it's also important to mention that there has been a very kind of a shameful episode in BMC, which is the Mumbai Parking Authority being deliberated and being set up being deliberated over the past 20 years, being set up in the past 10 years, and then having been disbanded almost unsummarily without any public discussion 3 years back, I think maybe 2 years back. So this is yeah, MPA created in 2021. I think Vedant and me visited it in May 2023. We visited the office in BMC. It was a large hall with a lot of a big team, and it seems really unfortunate that with so much of money, public money having been spent on MPA, it had to go the way it went. And that makes the minister's comments even more serious and worth noting that now are we going to, for the next foreseeable future, enter a regime where we will have these low street parking rates and completely almost unregulated parking. Uh, this is just to build up on what I've already said. And this is a article from again Times of India last year, uh, that Mumbai now has 2,300 vehicles for every kilometer of road. And this is again April 2024. 900 or even 500 cars being added every day since that time. It just seems like a completely, it's not a solvable problem at all. We need to control the growth of cars. We need to make parking more and more costly and difficult. Uh, this is again the headlines which keep coming on a very frequent basis, almost every month. Uh, the interesting thing is that even our articles, even the newspaper articles, even our journalists, even our editors don't end up providing this historic context, like the high-powered committee and whatever is discussed over there. We are not have seeing the IS officers taking cognizance of it, not the Bombay High Court, not the municipal commissioners, and not even the media. So whether it is Times of India, whose articles we've shown over here, or Hindustan Times or Midday, or anybody for that matter, in media should be taking cognizance. And the fallout of unregulated growth we clearly are seeing is this is a common sight. In fact, Ajinkya yesterday got in touch for Borivali East on our social media handle on X. And this is exactly what is happening in most of our narrow streets. This is from Andheri West Lokanwala complex, but anywhere. Pedestrians are walking on the carriageway and negotiating rickshaws and cars and bicycles and two-wheelers and just about everything else. Whereas the space which should have been for the pedestrian uh, has been taken over by the vehicles. Increasingly, the size of our vehicles we've seen in the past 20 to 25 years is only growing and growing. SUVs has clearly become a very popular segment for Indian buyers, and premium cars and SUVs clearly are consuming a huge amount of road space. And again, it has to be highlighted over here that this parking is taken up by just one individual. So this space of 150 or 200 square feet is being occupied for the privilege of one person who is also treating it as a right, which is not, it's not a right. It's not the right. I mean, it's not the duty of the municipal corporation to provide parking space for that person, and neither is it a right of that person to expect or demand from the municipal corporation to provide. But these are tacit agreements which are happening in society between the elite and the privileged. And as per the Indian Road Congress guidelines, as per all other guidelines, every road is mandated to have 1.5 meter minimum of footpath on both sides. Uh, and this is what is happening with our footpaths that
2 meters as
it's a
of now. I
yeah, I
mean,
mean these are the narrow roads I'm saying. Even if you go by the
yeah,
BMC's own thing, the BMC refuses to accept Indian Road Congress guidelines, and it has on its own, as part of its universal footpath policy and others, decided that it should be 1.5. But in this picture, we are saying forget 1.5, 1.2. There is not even 6 inches of footpaths, nothing over there. So this is the havoc that we are seeing now. We've not carried a representative slide over here, but we need to understand in this particular lane itself. Since I'm knowledgeable, I can share that the building you see on the left, the building you see on the right, and the building you see right in front are all imminently going to go in for redevelopment, which means that from 3 to 4 story buildings, they will become at the minimum 30-story buildings. As of now, this area does not have a new master plan, because as per the master plan, there should have been setbacks and the road should be widened, and there's no public discussion on that. The worst case fear and scenario is that the road width will remain the same, whereas the buildings will accommodate far more people and far more vehicles. So, which means that this same narrow road is going to be absolute chaos if you're going to have parking on both the sides and additional load from pedestrians' new residents. So so that's what I mean. This whole webinar is not about a master class and an in detailed urban planning, but this is happening across hundreds of neighborhoods in Mumbai right now, where redevelopment is happening at a ferocious rate. Our road capacity for pedestrians or even vehicles is remaining the absolutely the same. And this is increasing the trend in the past 10 years. We've highlighted this as walking project increasingly, that we ourselves feel overwhelmed completely, because at one end we would love to have ideal footpaths, which are meeting the minimum width guidelines, the height, the slope, the surface quality, lighting, hygiene, everything. And yet, in a 2025, all that we are fighting for is absolute basic minimum width to be provided. Because without minimum width, there really is no discussion to be held at all. Because in this picture itself, when you see the footpath on the right, which is barely 1 meters, I don't think it's even 1.5 meters, cannot accommodate present pedestrians at all. I mean, we're not this webinar is not about those black grills, but we're saying that those footpaths are not adequate at all. Most of the cases, the footpath, the road widening, and the falling width of footpaths is to accommodate increasing vehicular traffics and pedestrians. Again, if I were to go to the previous image, if there were hawkers in that same picture, there would be a hue and cry, and that would be treated as an encroachment, and there would be a lot of discussion to remove those encroachments on hawkers. A hawker would be having his livelihood, his family would be dependent on it, and he or she would be serving easily 50 to 100 people in a day, maybe more. And but that is clearly seen as a problem, and we are not justifying the presence of hawker in place of the car. So don't draw unnecessary conclusions from that statement. Hawkers is a separate discussion, but just saying that the car itself will go completely undiscussed and uncriticized. What needs to be done is that we clearly need to build institutional memory in the first case. Like the most kind of shocking thing is that no less than the Bombay High Court in 2010 has discussed exactly the same problem. And forget it. I mean, that's just one example. There is the Comprehensive Transport Survey by MMRDA. There are numerous other instances where parking and traffic congestion in Mumbai has been discussed. But just to take one instance, Bombay High Court takes cognizance, forms a high-powered committee. It's a not a low-powered committee, not a middle-powered committee. It's a high-powered committee consisting of senior officials from the government of Maharashtra. That high-powered committee submits a report in 2013. It's accepted by the Bombay High Court, and after that, everybody forgets about that report, including the members who are in that committee. So that's the first point. Then we need to clearly keep in track with global examples. Becoming globalized cannot be about these the shiny skyline with glass buildings and all the other trillion-dollar conversation. We really need to appreciate what's happening in Europe, what's happening in UK, what's happening in America, Singapore, Hong Kong, Japan. Japan has no street parking at all. So I mean, if we are truly looking at becoming a developed country, becoming a first world country, then we need to trust these. Third point clearly is trust the science, go beyond whims. Just yesterday, we were discussing and watching a lot of videos of Professor Donald Shoup, and who's an absolute authority. I mean, you don't need to keep reinventing the wheel all the time. All his three basic recommendations are clearly there. Uh, Completely peer reviewed, completely backed by science, and globally public policies incorporating the science behind public parking. And the fourth point, let the NMT first policies go beyond plans and recommendations. So what we are seeing is starting from the NUTP, which came out first in 2005 and 6, that our policy documents, our planning documents have very high quality conversation, very high quality objectives, and everything embodied in them. And none of that translates down on the road and the streets. So this is really a tragedy, and I think the comments of the current transport minister really embody that tragedy. That none of the statements he make would be borne by public policy since at least 2005. I mean, this is going beyond before that, and because there was substantial discussion before that, is why the NUTP came in place. But if you were to just respect NUTP and which is 20 years, None of the minister's comments are going by that. And these are the global trends which are clearly uh, there for everybody, including the minister, including our top bureaucrats, our government, our management. And that's it. I think we just wanted to highlight that particular article. We wanted to highlight the high powered committee. And we hope these are the few takeaways which you will take from this webinar, and try to create discussion in the WhatsApp groups and the committees that you are part of. And ideally, we should be able to kind of write to the minister in large numbers and bear on the government of Maharashtra that this is a regressive decision. Whatever ends up happening in MMR almost also becomes a context for other cities. So that is our worry, that if this we still don't have that copy of the 14 point guidelines which have been circulated. We are hoping we'll get it. We'll at least make an attempt for it in the next week or two, and we'll share it with the community as soon as it comes. So yeah, that's where we'll stop. I'll stop. Vedant, if you have to add, and comments by others.
So I opened up the thing for discussion. Guys can turn on your mics. You can turn on your video, whatever. We can open it up for this Q&A session for the next 15 minutes, I guess.
How many people joined? Eight.
Six.
Six. Okay.
So also regarding that slide that you showed, non-motorized transport, actually things need to uh, go beyond the policy documents. And it's not just the NUTP, it's also the Mumbai Climate Action Plan. It is also the
Absolutely.
MMRDA Comprehensive Transport Study. It is also the
Yes.
BMC Comprehensive Mobility Plan. In each of these documents, you will see that there is lip service provided to the fact that we need to focus on public transport, private transport needs to be curtailed and reduced. All of these things are present, but when you go to a BMC official, like I mean, this is not supposed to be in public, but we had a high-level meeting with the BMC barely 2 or 3 weeks ago, and the point of contention became the amount of space you're providing for the footpaths. To the point that the person even challenged and threatened कि let's stop the meeting. कि अगर तुम लोग 4 मीटर फुटपाथ मांग रहे हो on a road, then we can stop the discussion. Yeah, we don't have an agreement. And in the same day, I will go and check the MCAP document or the IRC document or even the pedestrian first policy, which is pedestrian last policy. उसमें भी still you have that pyramid जिसमें सबसे ऊपर you are keeping the pedestrian and at the bottom you have the cars. But in practice, when you go, you have this completely reverse policy. Even IRC documents you see, if you have a given right of way for a road, the first thing that goes out to make space for footpaths is parking. It clearly
Yeah.
says कि क्या होना चाहिए अगर एक road है, if you are not able to provide, if you want to accommodate for footpaths, how do you accommodate for those minimum widths on those footpaths? It clearly says the first thing that goes is parking. पहली बार एक साइड से निकालो, दूसरी बार फिर भी नहीं जगह हो रहा है तो दूसरे साइड से निकालो. And in the opposite direction, we hear MLAs at public meetings. We hear uh, your good friend Subhajit Mukherjee in 2023 saying that unused footpaths need to be removed to make space for parking. So that, I mean, it's ridiculous the way we manage parking in this city.
Okay. Karan has asked a question in
Yeah,
the comments.
yeah. What about this new redevelopment buildings having a separate parking building? Can you guide on what impacts that could have? A 10-story parking building. I feel the problem at its root needs to be to curtail the number of vehicles. We can build parking and all. This has been, I mean, America has had minimum parking requirements for their stuff, and that has absolutely destroyed the urban fabric of those cities over there. Yesterday itself, we were seeing the combined space dedicated for parking in the US would be equal to the state of West Virginia. I think that would be similar to Telangana, I guess, in India, the size of the entire state. Pura state is just a parking lot. I mean, to some extent, it makes sense that you have some amount of parking and all present in your buildings, but we need to go beyond parking as the primary concern and go ahead with how Singapore has done it with with a maximum cap on the number of licenses that needs to be given, can be given, or Japan where you need a certificate that you have a space to park the vehicle. This is something the Maharashtra government has said they want to do, but we rarely see any movement on that. Once in every 4 or 5 months that we hear some lip service done to that thing.
So
It's,
I think, Karan, also just to add, I think this has been built into our regulations now, right? And especially in redevelopment, we are saying that it's part of the package that minimum of two spaces or at least one space will be provided minimum, the other can be purchased at a small price. And so a lot of people end up purchasing that. And whether it will be developed as a separate parking building or will it be integrated as still parking within the main building is, I think, based on the plot size, how narrow, how big it is. And like I remember in Thane, in that Hamara complex, I think the buildings are all ground plus whatever, and then there's a separate parking block. And but that luxury is only available in these old, large industrial complexes, derelict complexes which are redeveloped. In our existing buildings, I think it would be still parking plus the build component. So yeah, that's the issue.
and also, I have linked the video, the Vox video on high cost of free parking. This is now
I
8
was
year old
just going to
video.
say that, like, since we have some time, I think it's good that you can show that video. Yes.
Let's not show the video. I don't know क्या technicalities है on the uh, showing it, but I mean the primary concern of mine with going for a minimum amount of parking is the fact that like creating parking is expensive. It's not a cheap thing to do. Like stilt पे बनाना है, just the sheer amount of construction complexity that goes into adding all of this, the sheer amount of space that goes behind parking is enormous. And in the video that I've linked, basically that is what they're sharing, the high cost of free parking. Parking is not free. Parking might be free at the point of service, but this is basically like socializing the cost of parking to everybody else, even people who don't drive. And if you, there was this comment by Mr. Lodha, not Mangal Prabhat Lodha, but his son, after they built the One World Towers in Worli. Somebody had asked them, ki, would you do this again? Would you build the World Towers, which was supposed to be the tallest residential building in the world at that point? Would you do this again? He said, no, I would not do this again because it is very expensive to build a super tall skyscraper. It's extremely expensive. And the higher the building goes, the number of floors increases, the cost of building it just simply increases equally. There's also this case study that BMC, now they have scrapped the projects, but they were going to add somewhere around 300 parking spaces. And the combined cost of building that parking was going to be enormous. I don't remember the numbers, but effectively it came down कि हर parking space बनाने के लिए 30 लाख रुपए जगह लगेगा. So basically you will park a 6 lakh का car in a 30 lakh rupees ka car parking space. And that is just one parking space. And like we saw in the statistics, ki every day we are adding 190 cars, we are adding 460 two-wheelers. And you're barely creating 300 parking spaces. And it is taking you 2 to 3 years to do the construction. And तुम्हारा बेसिकली एक वीक में तुम एग्जॉस्ट कर रहे हो जो 3 साल में तुम कंस्ट्रक्ट कर रहे हो. So there is no, we are not going to chase down and provide enough supply to the amount of demand that parking. Like our friend from WRI Dhawan keeps on saying ki the demand for parking is 10 times the supply, 10 times the supply that we can create. So simple thing is we need to start regulating and improving public transport effectively.
So within some of the things which you mentioned, I think we should improve our versions of presentation, and we
Yeah.
should graphically show this 1 week, 3 years, which you mentioned, that how much we are creating. And if we can also create animation of how quickly the cars add up and two-wheelers, and just how, just if you were to take the slide as the presentation slide as 1 year and then start from one corner, and how soon does that slide exhaust? Maybe half a slide will exhaust or whatever. Let's think of it. Even Karan can think, Ajinkya can think that how can we develop this kind of an animation of the rate at which it is just like. Also we show that bread and the time lapse, right? Fungus, how soon the fungus grows on the bread, the
That
time lapse.
would we would
So
require
similar.
more funds to hire an animator.
So let's identify what are the resources, what are the funds. Would somebody do it pro bono? We can tie up with some of our friends in America to help us. Maybe that this maybe should be done at UCLA should do it for us, kind of a thing. But we should do this. And also one more point which we should include in future things is that, see, this whole saying is there, right? That capitalism for the poor and socialism for the rich.
Mm.
So, I mean, with same thing with parking. I mean, if we are to live in a free market economy and market economics and everything is to be priced as per the, then why is parking made free of that? I mean, if everything else for housing, we are saying slums, housing for poor, affordable housing, we are saying market rates should apply. Then clearly market rates should apply for parking as well. So this is a kind of a distortion. These are the market failures, which we call in economics. This is a clear instance of market failure.
That's what Professor Donald so said na, in the 3 points. He doesn't even say that parking needs to be completely removed. He simply says that parking should exist, it should be market rate, and it should be priced such that even at its lowest, it keeps like one or two parking spots free in every locality. So the idea behind it is कि, ठीक है, you made a space in the city, kind of you allow street parking on that space. But every time somebody reaches that location, there should be at least one or two spots which are empty, so that it has some utility and it's not just कि लोग आ रहे हैं गाड़ी पार्क कर रहे हैं शाम को निकल रहे हैं. There has to be some value added from that. And yeah, I mean, we saw na, कि 135 square feet is the amount of space standard IRC standard parking spots takes up. Yesterday we had this discussion कि minimum I think it's 350 square feet, right? The size of a house which is supposed to be provided by MADA or SRA or C.
I think SRA is now 300. There was a lot of discussion. At one point, it went up till 500, but I think it's come down to 300.
Yeah. And we see, be it Altamont Road, be it one of these richer neighborhoods in Bandra, Khar, huge SUVs parked outside buildings paying zero amount of rupees. And the same houses on that same lane would go upwards of 4 5 crore rupees. So,
No, no, 10 crore, upward
10
of 10
crore.
crore. Nothing, there's nothing in 4, 5 crores in Mumbai, boss.
Yeah. And in a housing, like half of the city lives in slums. And even in that city, you want to have low prices for parking and all. It's just ridiculous.
Chalo, I think we can stop here. Unless
Yeah.
Ajinkya or Karan has something, or Aishwarya has something to say. But this is we were experimenting. I think we'll keep improving on this.
Yeah.
Like I have just one comment from my side.
Yeah.
The issue is like even though we know that you guys know that there is like, a lot of people know that what is right, but our representatives, ministers, as you said, they are like remove footpath because no one is using it. They are looking at it the wrong way. If we ask them, you guys remove highways because it's congested anyway, then they will like they'll get mad, pissed off at you,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they have this terrible attitude at them. And I should actually forgot the point was I was trying to make. But yeah, sorry. We have a tendency, the authorities, that they tend to. they sometimes I do identify what is right, but then people push back against it. Like for example, this street parking, maybe they would actually park against it, but then those residents will be like, "हमें ये जगह चाहिए free में, हमने इतना tax भरा," and then they just back off.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of disheartening because even when they try to do something right, they themselves will get a call from their superiors and they will back off. And I'm not sure how the upcoming BMC election will help with that because at least then they will get some autonomy, I guess, because still the MLAs would have power over them, the corporators, even if they get voted in.
No, absolutely. I think you've raised a valid point, and these are the challenges, right? These are political questions. But see, this is where I want to quickly respond, and Vedant, quickly you can also that this is a visible and a vocal lobby. Say the residents you mentioned who will on the streets fight for parking, and they are the ones who will also suggest or be happy with footpaths being removed. But this is the unfortunate part about our politics, right? That the majority is suffering, but they are not coming together politically, which is what things like Walking Project are all about. That and we are not. I'm not one of those ferociously anti-car activists. All that time we are asking is equal representation on the street. We're not saying that cars and parking should be displaced. We do understand that if you were to provide footpaths on those narrow 5 to 10 meter roads, then automatically parking becomes impossible because they'll become an impediment to traffic flow and the cars will start getting towed away. But this is becoming, it's not as difficult a problem, but this is where society needs to be prepared, say, over a 20-year time frame. And this whole word, cliched word, which we keep using, which is the paradigm of development which we want to choose. So the paradigm we've chosen is this, that where 5% of the people will get to benefit completely in terms of a budget being allocated for flyovers and coast roads and footpaths being removed for parking, whereas 95% people will adjust and have a substandard life and keep going ahead with it 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, then they die at one point. And this kind of an inequitable city is something which we have as a whole subscribed to, whether willingly, unwillingly, whether grudgingly, whether happily, but we have. Now, if you have to break out of this kind of a paradigm, then it's a laborious task.
It's also that you can ease people into things like this. It doesn't have to be a on-off switch ki aaj parking, aaj it is, as you have free parking and tomorrow it is completely like it is extremely high cost, which somebody will uh, protest to. I have, for the longest amount of time, I've said this ki we should be leveraging technology much more than we are doing right now. For example, like this is an app that I have been talking about for a long time. I think the BMC had also floated tenders for it, but there was no responsible. Something was the problem. Basically, what the app was going to do is, ki, for example, you are driving a car and you want to go somewhere and park over there. You buy the buy a like a parking spot in that locality, and then you park your car. It is cross-verified by a vehicle which keeps flowing and checks, cross-checks whether this car which is parked is paid the amount of money. Now, once you have such a system in place, you can have a floating rate. Let's start with something like a 1 rupee or 2 rupee parking fee, which nobody would really object to, as long as, I mean, the safety that it provides, nobody would really object to it.
So, Vedant, this is where we'll improve our presentation. But 2019, I think, when Praveen Pardeshi is there, we have this obscene suddenly parking fines going up to 25,000 rupees, or the parking fees, I think 23,000 rupees
Hmm.
for a whole day, etc. And I don't know where it emerged from that time. That was the time I was a bit inactive in the city. But this parking app itself has been discussed a lot between 2010 and 20. And but that's what the whole, there cannot be any weak link in this whole chain. And there's a job of all these people who are in the high powered committee to hold this whole discussion and the plumbing of it together, which they have not done. And which is why we keep having these recurring discussions. And in 2025 also, everything seems very directionless. And that is where the role of institutions is so extremely important. The Unified Metropolitan Transport Authority has been suggested in the NUTP, has been discussed. And this is where you need transport planning professionals, transport engineers, transport policy people,
We had those, na?
everybody.
We had all of these people in the Mumbai Parking Authority, but it again
Huh,
came down to
everybody.
political will.
Everybody. So we cannot have these institutions being handled in a very summary manner, being created, being disbanded, their projects being removed. And then when a new team comes up, then they take 3 years to stabilize. By that time, it is 2030. And yeah, I mean, it's not, I mean, all of us are living in the city. It's not that everything is collapsed. But like I said, that we are living a very compromised quality of life, and where we can live far better and we can have a city is far more sophisticated in its management and governance.
Yeah. Citizens also need to know about all of these things, high powered committee and all. It's a great, the high powered committee report itself is a great resource to create content out of and let the people know nitty-gritty history, क्या discuss हुआ है. I had not heard of this until you mentioned it to me 4 days ago. I had no clue there's such a committee that has formed, which has seen parking, all of the discussions that we see usually happening in Europe, which have already happened in the city a decade, more than a decade. So some of this really also is on
No,
our
that's
side
why.
as civil
No,
society.
that's why I suggested we need to make a good film.
Yeah.
We need to. Yeah, even if I mean, even if it, I mean, it's a laborious thing. It takes long, but I think it's worth it. We owe it to ourselves, at least, if not to the city, for the amount of work we are putting in. That at
We need
least
a lot of donations to be able to sustain ourselves through the
no,
making of
we'll
such a
figure
film.
out. I think let's just first figure out the time quantum, and at least every week basis, just. I mean, see, the storyboarding is something which can clearly happen, right? Storyboarding doesn't require too much of money. We can create the storyboard in terms of slides, what we will cover, just like the usual filmmaking exercise.
Yeah, Karan is asking the higher FSI in Mumbai, how does it affect traffic congestion in the city? Simple answer to
100%.
this is Hong Kong and New York, Manhattan. Both have 4 times the FSI that Mumbai has. So FSI is clearly a tool which is used primarily to create more housing space. It has its relation to traffic congestion is purely secondary. It's not immediate. It depends on how much public transport you're creating for your increased FSI, at grade transit, underground transit, all of these things, how much you're providing. It need not be कि FSI increase हो रहा है तो the number of cars and vehicles on street also need to. It only increases in Mumbai because we don't provide the necessary public transit. Best example is Nanasaheb Dharmadhikari Marg in Bandra East. You see houses going from 5 to 6 story to 20-story towers, which are being built. You will see all these high luxury Adani, Rustomji, Kalpataru and all coming up. Tiny road completely covered in parking on both sides. Would be perpendicular parking. And metro is relatively close from there now, but not well connected. Best frequency increase one in footpath, still 1.5 meters wide. The road easily allows for a good 3 to 4 meter wide footpath, similar to what Dadar has, Dadar East. Yeah.
So just to jump in as a quick remark to Karan, that FSI itself is not a problem, but the context in which you increase FSI is the problem. And the context we have in Mumbai is not the context which was there in Hong Kong or in New York. And the context really is that does your city have the necessary institutions and the governance framework to be able to handle the effects of higher FSI? The short answer is that no, in Mumbai, that context in terms of the governance framework is not there. So there will definitely be some amount of problems, and we still don't know. But yeah, it will be good to catch up in 2030 and compare notes.
I think we can close the discussion now.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, absolutely. I
it
think
was a
we should.
nice, nice to have you guys come on.
No, thanks a lot, Ajinkya. You were having a cold, I think, and it's
Yeah. Hope you're doing
nice
well.
of you. And in fact, we
Yesterday
should.
I felt better, so I registered immediately. So like,
No, no, no. So, but it's good of you. I think we should. Our meeting is highly overdue. We all should
Yeah.
also meet. Karan, we've met, but Ajinkya, we've not met till now.
yeah, I'm not a morning person at all. So I can't.
No, no, we'll meet in the we'll catch up for lunch. You choose the date, and then we'll catch
No,
up for
no,
lunch
no.
another day.
If you guys ever have a walk nearby, I will definitely come. The last two times you guys had planned, I had a plan the day before, which went into the night, unfortunately,
Uh,
coincidentally. But
okay.
yeah,
So
sure.
Borivali is good for you.
Yeah, Borivali, Kandivali, anywhere actually, if there's time. Anywhere between Borivali to
Okay.
Andheri. It
Yeah, yeah.
depends.
Okay. Chalo.
Uh,
Great. Thanks a
were there
lot.
any statements by the traffic police on the High Court committee report? Aishwarya was asking.
Uh, so Vivek Kansalkar himself was part of it. Vivek Kansalkar has been the longest serving Joint Commissioner of Police Traffic. For 4 years, he was there in that place in Worli
If
for
I'm not
four
wrong, he
years.
was also very progressive in that sense because Andheri Kurla Road and all was under him, right? That you got approved.
So Vivek Kansalkar overall was very progressive. In fact, he was very supportive of the walkability agenda. I interacted with him very closely for all those 4 years. I was at WRI when he joined, I think. So as part of WRI, I worked with him for 1 year, and then at ORF, and then of course as Walking Project as well. But subsequently, we've had, and this is what happens, right? There's no continuity within the organization. I think subsequent to him, Milind Bharambe became the joint commissioner, and by my memory and participation after 2016-17 is very sketchy because I was myself very bitter and with the
See,
city.
again, it's like a very, there's nothing institutional in the way these institutions operate. So, very whimsical organization कि कोई भी traffic like
Very
whoever
personality
is the
driven,
huh?
very personality driven.
Yeah, very personality driven because even we had a conversation with the ex cop, what was it, Sanjay Pandey. He had brought in the healthy, happy street, whatever thing. But after he's gone, that's gone. Then Pansalkar is there. He improved. He gave a go ahead for some of these widening of footpaths, some huge widening of footpaths on some of these roads. Again, no institutional continuity कि now एक road हुआ है दूसरे road पे move करना है. Even the ease of doing, like once it is shown कि it is happening, it is successful, it needs to move ahead. Like now again, if we ask BMC to improve certain roads, immediately आता है कि traffic police is not allowing for widening for roads or adding a tabletop crossing. So it's fun how our institutions operate.
Okay, chalo, great. Thanks a lot,
Yeah,
guys. We'll connect again.
yeah.
Yes.
Have a happy weekend,
Unended?
everyone.